Welcome everyone to Blazor Apps, the new UI framework developed by Microsoft. And when I said UI framework, you might be thinking of Angular, React, or Vue, and also might exclaim why we need Blazor apps at this point of time. Well, using Blazor apps, you can create web frontend in plain C sharp. Isn't it exciting? Yes, it's really exciting. Let's check it out. Well, before we move ahead, have you ever thought why JavaScript is said to be the language at the browser end? Or why only JavaScript works on a client side? Why not C Sharp or PHP or Java? Well, the simple answer to this question is each browser comes with its own version of JavaScript engine. And that is where the JavaScript get interpreted by that engine and produce the output for you. Apart from JavaScript, browser would not able to understand any other language. Is that a limitation of a browser? Yes, that is the limitation of a web browser. But that limitation is overcome by a concept called as a WebAssembly. So let's check it out what WebAssembly is. WebAssembly, or in short WASM. So as per the definition provided by webassembly.org, WASM is a binary instruction format designed as a compilation target for programming languages, enabling the deployment of client and server applications on the web. Or to simplify this definition, it provides the execution platform or execution medium for various programming languages, and that programming languages can take advantage of browser APIs to execute the code written in their own language natively. Again, like you might be exclaiming, like why we require WASM? We require WASM because WASM is fast. Since the programming languages, the high-level programming languages, which are compiled one, are faster in nature. And whenever the WebAssembly gets downloaded from the internet, it it executes natively and produces the faster output. And second most important thing, they are the type safe. So you need to, you know, arrange your program. You can utilize the type system of the programming languages to make your application more safe and less prone to the errors. So that are the two main reasons why we should go for the WebAssembly. And Blazor utilizes this concept of WebAssembly uh, for getting executed at the browser end. So let's see. So as I said, like Blazor is a UI framework built for developing the rich web user interfaces using C Sharp. So there are various use cases of the Blazor. So first one is Blazor server app. Second is Blazor WASM or WebAssembly. And third one is the Blazor Hybrid. Right. So let's see the Blazor server first. So Blazor server, like it's similar to any other ASP.NET Core application. In short, it requires a server where we can host the application, and .NET Core server will take care of request response kind of thing. But the major difference between .NET Core and Blazor server apps is this 4 point, which is inbuilt support of signal are. So the communication between client and server, it's made asynchronous, and only incremental UI is posted back to the client, which makes the response and request uh, bandwidth quite low. The data flow between client and server is minimized. Okay, we will see that in action. So, right. And next we'll move towards Blazor WASM. So Blazor WASM, as explained, it's a WebAssembly application. It completely executes at the client side, okay, with the help of a WebAssembly. So we don't require a server in order to execute the application. The application, once downloaded, can run offline. The only limitation over here is the WASM has got high loading times. Absolutely, because WebAssembly needs to be downloaded. It needs to download all the required dependencies which help the programming language to run natively in the browser. And that is the reason it is not recommended by thin clients. Okay. Yeah. Then we'll move ahead with the Blazor hybrid. So Blazor hybrid, it's you can compare this, you know, with Ionic framework. So using the Blazor hybrid, you can build the cross-platform apps which can work on Mac, iOS, Android, and of course on Windows. And it has its own web view, which we call it as a Blazor web view. Uh, and the good thing is it works without WebAssembly. Okay, so Blazor WebView not require does not require WebAssembly to be downloaded, and hence it's so fast. App can access the native capabilities through Blazor WebView. So that is all. That is all we have for the Blazor. So we can create the three types of apps as explained, like the normal Blazor server app, Blazor WebAssembly app, and the Blazor hybrid app. Okay, so let's start with the creating the Blazor apps, right? So for creating the Blazor apps, you need to have Visual Studio. The recommended IDE is Visual Studio, so which every Microsoft developer nowadays has, right? So once you have the Visual Studio, you can navigate to the create new project, right? And as you can see, it will come with this beautiful list of applications that you can create with the Visual Studio. But I know, like, you are much excited with the Blazor app, so just type in Blazor over here, right? There you go. Yeah, so you have come across the various options over here, right? So main options, like you can create a Blazor server app, Blazor WebAssembly app, Blazor server app empty, or .NET MAVI Blazor app, which is a .NET hybrid Blazor apps. Excellent. So for sake of the simplicity and for the sake of this video, we will create a Blazor server app over here. So click on this and hit next. Of course, here my first exciting Blazor app. You can give it any name. Uh, Keep default thing as it is. Right? It you can, if you want, you can configure it for the HTTPS, configure for the Docker, It is Linux. You can select any Docker OS with it, but the main thing to select is .NET 6.0, which is which has a long-term support right now, and hit on create. Yep. So the creation of the app is in process. Yep. And that's it. You are good to go with this app now. So let's see the folder structures over here. What it says, like, to debug in container docker. Okay. Uh, yeah, we can run the Docker desktop. I have the Docker desktop installed. But if you don't have the Docker desktop, you can, turn off the option for Docker while creating this project. Okay. Uh, right. So let's move ahead uh, with the folder structure. Right. Great. So, this is the typical standard folder structure for a Blazor server app, which you can, correlate over here also. So the important folders from this are www root, uh, which holds the basic CSS, any JavaScript if you have, okay, and the static content of your web application. Then second interesting folder would be data, and in this folder you can mention the entities which will be used in your application. Pages is the presentation layer of your application, and shared folder, it basically has the shared template uh, for your again for the presentation, like it will contains main layout, navigation layout, and any other component which you want to reuse in your applications. Okay, so this is the this is about the directory structure, but the main file in the directory structures are the like imports.razor, where your all namespaces, required namespaces, will be stored. We will see that in a minute. And the program.cs file, of course, it's a entry point for any like a .NET application. uh, so we'll see those things. Yeah. So as mentioned, like, this is the import.razor, and this is the common file which you will be having for importing the various namespaces in your application. Right. And this is the program.cs, so this is the entry point, and as you can see, it's based on the uh, dependency injection principle. So whenever will be creating the new classes, new dependencies, you need to have the dependency inversion principle injected over here. Okay, and this is the main file which you can have it for the various functionalities, for configuring the routing, uh, for configuring the static files, for any HTTPS redirections, and so on. Yep. And yes, the fundamentals part, definitely any application requires routing over here, and the routing is very well implemented uh, by default in this application. Okay, so any page, for example, let's take a fetch data page. Okay, So fetch data page, you can see this at the page directive over here. Okay, so this directive has the string parameter, which you know which this engine will understand, and whenever in URL it encounters fetch data part, then the routing will uh, load this page. Okay, so let's see this in action. I'm just executing the uh, program over here. Since it's executing in Docker, it will take some time to load. Yep, and this is your first execute existing Blazor application. Okay, excellent. As you can see now, this is the home page of your application. This is the counter page. This is the fetch data page, and for routing, as I mentioned, like whenever a URL encounters this fetch data term, right, it will load that component. So this component is getting loaded, right? Great. So the configuration is very much standard to the .NET Core. Okay, so you can have a app setting .json file in which you can mention the JSON structure for your for the configuration part, right? Now, how Blazor works, it is the main thing to understand over here, and that we will understand it using this startup process. Okay, so there is a file. Okay, usually it's labeled as a blazor.webassembly.js or blazor.server.js based on which .NET Core version you are using. Okay, so this is the standard JavaScript file which do a handshake between programming language and your JavaScript or browser APIs. Okay, so for .NET Core 6.0 we have this file like layout.html, and in that layout.html this file is included, blazor.server.js. I guess we will see. Yeah, so here we go with the Blazor, and if you see this line, right, line number 30, script source, and from the framework it loads blazor.server.js, right? In case if you are using .NET Core 3.1, the file name may be different. Okay, but uh, the functions, it will work the same way it is working with .NET 6.0. Okay, so this file is the main file uh, which will do any handshake between server and client. So since this our application is executing, right, so and this data, fetch data, which you can see over here, it's coming from the server. But how do we make sure, like if we go with the developer tools over here? Okay, now I need to again refresh this page, but before we refresh, yes, it's in the network tab only. Yeah, so you can see this file, right, Blazor ID, and with this file you can see the binary messages, right? So these binary messages are coming from server. Okay, even if we go to the counter page over here, okay, Now see this counter page. Okay, with we'll see the component source code in a short time. But if we click on click me, you can see the counter is increasing, right? And if we go over here in the binary message, you can see uh, this binary message it's coming from the server. Okay, and to understand its code, okay, if we again go and open the counter.razor, which is the component, you will be able to see the C sharp code over here. Isn't it exciting? You don't require a JavaScript, and using C sharp code, you are getting the functionality executed at client end. All this is possible due to the WebSocket communication through SignalR. Okay, so we'll come with the environments. So environments are really it's again similar concept with the .NET Core. You can create your own file. Okay, like app settings .development.json, and through headers part, Blazor will understand if this is for the development purpose, then it will execute it will have the configuration mentioned in app setting development.json. Okay, similarly, the best thing is logging part. So iLogger is inbuilt in the Blazor apps. You just need to inject the dependencies and start using it, right? So you don't require any external logger for it unless you want to uh, have some you want to do, that the other logger is more efficient than the iLogger. And the best part is the SignalR, which we have discussed already. The inbuilt support of SignalR, via which only page refresh happens incrementally without loading the entire page from the server. Okay, uh, so that's it. I think that is the good introduction for the Blazor apps. You can definitely dig in more in the code, in this code itself, to understand what are the various components it comes default, and what are the various functionalities it has. But the main thing is like you can use C sharp everywhere, from whether it's in component part or whether it's in services part, like uh, weather forecast service, for example, this, right? So this will help you as a C sharp developer to build not only API related thing, but also the beautiful UIs. Okay, and when I said beautiful UIs, you can definitely look out the various other supporting UIs for Blazor, like Rads and Blazor or Mud Blazor. They have got huge collection of templates or components which are open source, and you can use it in your apps. So with this, thank you very much, guys. I hope you like this introduction, and you will definitely use it to create the beautiful applications, and beautiful and mind-blowing applications. Okay, thank you. Thank you.